Hey, this is Frank with thebraingarage.com, and today I'd like to talk about how emotions, especially negative emotions, are contagious, both internally and externally. And once again, I'd like to turn to the 7-year-old to illustrate this phenomenon. Specifically, we were having a birthday party at a laser tag emporium, which is basically a Chuck E. Cheese with weapons. So, as you might expect, there were hundreds of kids there, and they were loud, exuberant, boisterous, excited. Some of them were a little tentative, and some of them were just plain scared. It's the way it is when you have hundreds of kids in one location. And of course, there were only a few dozen parents, and they had the looks on their faces you might expect. Some of them were a little bored, some of them were trudging along, some of them were also scared, which happens when you're outnumbered by hundreds of excited, boisterous kids. So anyway, we wanted the kids to have a good time, and we thought it was a unique and perhaps fun activity. Until, of course, we got into this dark room where the staff explained how the game worked. Now, one of the attendees of our party was a little girl, and she was at first tentative. And then once they started showing the equipment, the flashing lights, the vest, this phaser-type toy weapon, she was having none of it. And she started talking out loud. Well, she was saying things like, I don't want to do this, I'm scared, what's a sensor, what's a laser, I don't like this, I want to go. And that's okay. It could be anything. Kids at birthday parties act a certain way depending on where they're at, if they just don't want to be there, or maybe they're just not having a good day. But to be fair to the little girl, it was a little overwhelming. I am, of course, an adult, and once I actually got into the game itself, it was disorienting, and it was dark, and there were flashing lights. So I totally understood, and we wanted to make the child comfortable. So we told her she didn't have to do it. And the great thing was, there was a separate party room set up, so kids who didn't want to participate and the parents could hang out and chat and play. Well, the thing is that the little girl clearly started off tentative and started being scared. And once she started talking out loud, I could see that she was whipping herself further and further into a scared and not wanting to participate state of mind. And that's understandable. She's just a little kid. Now, what I also saw was that there were some other kids there, mostly the girls, and they were listening to what this one little girl was saying, and immediately they bunched together and all decided that they didn't want to do it, that it was scary, and that they were having none of it. Well, of course, it's okay. You know, in the scheme of things, not that big a deal. Now that we realize what laser tag actually is, perhaps 7 is too young. Perhaps it should have been a boy-only party. We can only go by what we actually observed, not by what we want to have happened, or our vision of a wonderful party where little girls magically decide they want to become little laser soldiers. But there were 2 girls who were totally into it, so I don't know if it's totally a gender thing, but what I observed with this one little girl was that she started off tentative, and then once she started talking to herself mostly, she was firmly in the camp of experiencing a negative emotion. And then once she kept talking, she clearly spread her feeling to the other girls, who perhaps, if they had not heard her, or were sitting with someone who was saying, this is awesome, I can't wait, perhaps they would have gone along. Can't really tell. Again, all I can say is what I observed directly. And of course, this leads us to our real lives, not as 7-year-olds or at a birthday party or playing laser tag. But you might want to think, today, how you may be starting off tentative or unsure or maybe just tired, and a couple of negative things happen, and you take that and start talking yourself into a worse and worse state of mind. You may want to also think how this may be affecting the people around you if you find yourself in this kind of situation. And you may also want to think about the people you are associating with. Do you have someone in your life who is constantly down-talking stuff, constantly spreading fear? Well, just think about it for a minute. How do you feel when you're around this person? Do you find yourself going down to their level? It's interesting. We really don't want to segregate ourselves from other human beings, but the reality is, if you've got people in your life that start off the game of laser tag or whatever game it is you're playing today by down-talking and spreading fear, that's not the optimal state of mind where you want to be as you start playing your game today, whatever it is. So, what I learned from these 7-year-olds playing laser tag is you can determine your attitude at the outset with self-talk, and you can influence other people with your talking. So, you may want to think that, let's say, perhaps you're starting off today in a neutral or mildly negative state of mind. Well, take this lesson and deliberately talk yourself up. Deliberately repeat to yourself that, well, this is what I am doing today. I've chosen it. I'm going to do my best. I can do it. I will do it. I'm going to follow through, and it's going to be awesome. Of course, we don't start every day from a neutral or even mildly negative point of view. So, if you are riding high and simply feeling good, maintain that feeling with positive self-talk both internally and externally. And if possible, try and associate yourself with folks who are talking things up, both internally and externally, and you'll find that no matter what challenge you are faced with today, at the very least, you are going to score a few points. If you are starting the day in a positive frame of mind, that's even better, and you can get better and better with positive internal self-talk and by associating with folks who also exhibit this kind of positive, contagious emotion. Well, that's all for now. This is Frank with thebraingarage.com. Thank you for listening. You can gain instant access to hundreds of our hypnosis, meditation, brainwave music, sleep programming, and affirmation MP3s when you become a member of thebraingarage.com. Thanks again, and remember, talk yourself up. It's contagious.